Welcome to another episode of B Squared, where my former college roommate and I attempt to add value to people through the use of a pivotal statement, quote, or insight, along with an impactful guest speaker. Through these dialogues, as we've stated before, we hope to be more than an addition to someone's life, but be exponential. Pete Ferguson is the CBO of BHS Productions. He's an adult and youth development specialist, an entrepreneur, and empowerment speaker. I'm Adam Bratten, a professional trainer, entrepreneur, professional photographer, and a local actor and model here in Denver, Colorado. Today, we have a very special and talented guest that I'm going to let Pete Ferguson introduce.
Well, thank you, Adam. I could not be more excited today to have a friend, a mentor, a colleague, just somebody that's all around that invests in people, Dr. Karen Kassebaum. Dr. Kassebaum, thank you and welcome for being here today. Dr. Kassebaum, her formal title is she's the University of Nebraska-Lincoln Director of Staff Diversity and Inclusion. She's also an entrepreneur. She's the founder of something she'll talk about a little bit later in brief, Athlete to Athlete, and just somebody who has tremendous insight, but also I would be remiss if I didn't say she's a community stakeholder. She's one of the most valuable community stakeholders here in not only just Lincoln, Nebraska, but the state. And so I feel truly privileged and honored that you accepted our invitation and are willing to be on the show today. So welcome, Karen.
Thank you. Thanks so much. Thanks, Pete. That was a lot and so kind and so nice to see you, Adam. Thank you all, both of you, so much. This is an honor for me. I'm so proud.
Well, hey, we're excited to have you. So just to get things started, can you tell us a little bit more about yourself and who you are and what Dr. Kassebaum's all about?
Well, I think you said a lot of what I'm about, but I'm really about people. I'm all about service, community, developing others, giving back to the community. That's really who I'm about in a nutshell. I'm not a Nebraska person. I'm from Chicago, and now since I came to Nebraska, I've been here almost 20 years, and I love it. And it's just given me joy to help develop other people, push other people, encourage other people, and serve. I would call myself, I say I'm a transformational leader type, right? So I like transforming others.
Right.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, I know, Karen, I like to call you the bomb.com, Karen Kassebaum. That's what I like. But, in some previous conversations, as Pete alluded to, you've been actually very instrumental in helping us actually shape this episode and just this whole thing that Pete and I are trying to do. And in doing some research on you and athlete to athlete, it's evident that you are about other people. And, I'm interested in just what inspired that, and tell us just a little bit about the athlete to athlete and its impact on people's lives.
Okay. Well, I'll tell you just a tiny bit. So athlete to athlete kind of spawned from my own experience. Going to college as a first generation student of color. I went to a predominantly white school as an athlete. And I just remember being very lost. So as a recruiter, my other job before I became the director of staff diversity and inclusion, I was actually the director of undergraduate recruitment for the College of Education and Human Sciences. So I saw lots of students of color and lots of students from rural areas, a lot of students from international places, a lot of students from city, urban places that were struggling when they came to Nebraska as students, just being out of their environment, first gen, students of color, students of low socioeconomics. And for my PhD, you had to do, at that time, they've changed it, you had to do 20 hours of kind of like an internship or a project. And so I decided, I think what student athletes need is transition support. Coaches are way busy. So they really don't have the time, especially if you have a team like football or track, where they're bringing in 56 to 60 athletes every year, that they don't really have the time to help each athlete with their transition to college. So at the University of Nebraska, they had a program called Life Skills, and the track team had about 12 athletes that were the head of Life Skills. And I went to the coaches and said, hey, I have this idea about transitional mentoring. Would you mind me? I present it to you? And they were like, yeah. So I presented it to them and they were like, yes, this would be very, very helpful. So that's kind of how Athlete to Athlete started. And most mentors, they need to be trained. And so I did all the research and everything. I looked at all the Big Ten schools, like nobody had this program. And to this day, really, nobody still has the program, but or transitional mentoring. People mentor students on academic ability. Most students are getting services based on they're maybe not be the smartest or have the highest GPA, so they're getting mentored that way, but not necessarily transitional mentoring. So yeah, so that's how that worked out, and started with 12 people, and it's still going today, and it's wonderful. Actually, we are starting virtual mentoring here pretty soon because of the COVID.
That's the way to go.
Yeah.
That's the way to go.
Yeah.
Virtual's the way. So.
Yeah, I already had it built in my program years ago when I started it. We called it e-mentoring. But yeah, you know, the word virtual. So.
Awesome. Well, you talked a lot about just the transformational, and you talked about building up, I don't say confidence in your scholars. And so that goes directly to the statement that we wanted to focus on today. And it comes from Marcus Garvey. It's personally one of my favorites, where I think I first heard it was on House Party 2. And so if you get in there and kids doing all his work and everything, I mean, it wasn't some novel, got it from some long chapter book. It was right off that Kid and Play movie. But I think it resonates with a lot of the things that you're saying. And the statement is, if you have no confidence in self, you are twice defeated in the race of life. With confidence, you have won even before you have started. Again, by Marcus Garvey. And so can you tell us, when you hear that or you read that, how does that resonate with you personally and professionally in the things that you do?
Pete, that really resonated with me because I truly believe that if you don't have confidence, you can't do anything. It is so hard. You have to have some self-efficacy. You have to have something that keeps you motivated, or, I mean, you would be dead. I mean, you couldn't accomplish much if you didn't have the confidence, right? And we all need it, right? And we all get it in different ways. But it's so important to have confidence because me as a Black female, educated, there are so many barriers that are put up. So if I didn't have the confidence to push forward, I would not be in a good place. Right. So it's so important for everybody to have some form of confidence. I just think it's imperative. And I know some people mix up, especially in the sports world, confidence with arrogant.
Right.
You know, because they always try to say, oh, they're so arrogant. No, honey, that's confidence. Because sometimes if you don't have any confidence and no one ever tells you that you're worth it, or that you're good, or that you're capable, then what are you going to do?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, and kind of to that point, you know, being a former athlete myself, and just being in the coaching realm right now, I see that with youth athletes all the time. And I went through a lot of just, I think, a development of myself. But I had great people around me, right, that helped me. So I think, could you give some ideas as, if you don't have confidence, or if you're a coach that works with kids, or you're a mentor like you are with Athlete to Athlete, what are some of the things that are tangible that you could say, oh, well, if you don't have confidence, here's some things that maybe you need to look for, or here's some tools that you can get? Because we train athletes all the time for their bodies. And I've been also trying to be more intentional about giving the athletes the tools they need for visualization, for getting that confidence, because if you're not ready for it and it beats you down, like you're like, oh, my confidence is gone. So can you speak to that a little bit?
Yes, I can. Oh my goodness, Adam, that is like right on point. So for me, with when I talk to athletes or even just individuals, right? It's like, first of all, you got to love yourself first. You got to love yourself more than anybody else loves you. Even your parents, you've got to love yourself. And you've got to think that, you know what? I don't care what other people say. I'm who I am, right? This is what you get. Second of all, you need to surround yourself around people who are confident and embrace what they're doing and be like, whoa, like, you know what? You seem happy all the time. How does that work? How do you do that, right? You're always smiling. Oh my goodness, Pete, I see you. You always got that energy, especially when we're talking about youth, you know? So yeah, and then the next thing is self-affirmations. I have stickers like in my office that affirm me. I read, immerse yourself in self, self validation. So I read books that validate me as a woman and a woman of color and a competitive, as being a competitive person too. I think those things are really important, but because you can't depend on others so much to fill your bucket. You have to fill your bucket. I even watch certain shows that are affirming shows that motivate me and excite me. It's funny because I'm missing outdoor track season. Like, I got it bad. Like, I'm on the struggle. I'm keeping it real. So I watched this show on Netflix called Sprinter. And it was like, it just made me like, yes, right? So I can get to the next day of work. Like, okay, I have my track fix. I can work now, right? So you can do things like that. It's so important to to fill your own bucket,
You hit on a couple things, but real quick, can you tell everybody what you were a college scholar athlete. What events did you do?
I was a sprinter, 100, 200, 400 relay, yeah.
Okay, you're a speed demon then.
Yeah, can't run a block now.
Hey, that's all right.
No, I probably could run a block if I had to.
Hey, just put that Apple Watch on a dog's leg and let it walk around, and then get it and take it off, and you can go ahead and count your steps. You touched on one thing. You talked about success and affirming yourself, and one of the phrases I have come to embrace was embrace your success, and I think that sometimes is one of the hardest things for us to do as individuals. When you are somebody that gives, which I know you are one of those people that gives, and you affirm people continuously. So I really enjoyed hearing you talk about, you need to affirm yourself in ways and strategies you use to do that. And so before you can embrace your success, you have to dream and you have to aspire to something. And the great philosopher P. Diddy once said, don't be afraid to close your eyes. But be sure you open them to see your destination. And so can you talk about that a little bit when you talk about confidence and embracing your success, and how do you get to that point that, one, you see success, but then two, you can embrace it and affirm it as well?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it doesn't happen overnight. That's one thing you need to realize. It's a process. Like, it took me a long time to have, and I still struggle, with self-doubt, right? And question my abilities and things like that. It doesn't happen overnight. For me, it's been other people have seen more potential in me than I see in myself. So, for example, Adam saying, "Oh, Karen, I don't think you realize that you're really good at this. You can, you have great presence and confidence, right?" I'd be like, "Nah, I'm an introvert. I'm the fake extrovert. I'm happy in front of people." Then I'm like, "Oh, right." So for me, a lot of other people saw my talents and affirm them. I mean, the first person that saw me as a track athlete was a priest from my church. Yes, he was my coach, and he was like, you are talented, you have a gift. And he like hung on to me like white on rice and just motivated me through faith and my ability. You know, the next person that hit me up was my track coach in high school, which actually was the football coach. And he coached football and track, you know, inner city Chicago. And he was like, you know, you have a gift. He was a motivator. He would take us to breakfast. You know, he was just a really good coach. I remember going to grad school. I was like, grad school, like, that ain't me, right? I already got a master's degree. I don't need no PhD. I'm good. I could sit right here. And I'll never forget it. A professor came in my office the first day I started at UNL as the director of undergraduate recruitment. I'm trying to think of his name. He was a really good storyteller. Ricardo, yes. Came in my office and he said, Karen, this isn't it for you. And I was like, dude, I just started. He was like, no, don't let them pigeonhole you to be in this job forever. There's something bigger for you. I was like, okay, you know, I just was like a hot mess. I just started. I was like, dude. And then I would say not even a month later, Dr. Dave Brooks, Dave Brooks and, what is her name? I can't even think. That's terrible. But they came into my office. People start coming in going, have you ever thought about working on a PhD? And I was like, no, I'm just happy to have a job and to be making over $40,000. I was like, no.
Having to pay taxes.
Exactly. So, yeah, so people like, and Dave Brooks would come in every day. And then Marilyn Grady, she was my chair of my grad committee. Okay. She started coming in. So all these other people are the ones that saw more in myself than I did, right? Wow. So I had other people kind of push me along and give me the confidence, right? To be able to be like, I'm okay, I could do this, right? Because I always thought it was like a PhD, man. We only had one in our family.
Yeah. Well, I think that's, you know, I think that, again, that kind of goes back to what I hear you saying is just, you know, people around you, coaches, have such a much greater impact than what they maybe even realize at the time, right? And, you know, I think one of the things is also having a realistic sense of what you're capable of and feeling secure in that versus, you know, something that maybe is like completely off the wall out there, right? And maybe also helping reframe something that allows athletes to achieve success in little increments, right? Or reframe something that's, you know, hey, that's probably not going to happen, but here's actually something that you can actually strive for, right? So, you know, I heard it said one time, doubt kills more dreams than failure ever will.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
What you're talking about is a lot of confidence. So, you know, what are, and you've already talked about a lot of people that have been impactful in your own life.
Yeah.
Could you just maybe speak to maybe one or two things that you could give to people as mentors, as coaches that are tangible assets that maybe they should think about as they're working with people and how they communicate and speak to the people that are under them or working with them?
Right. Woo. I really think it's really important, first of all, to get to know the person. I think sometimes we don't take the time to get to know the individuals, what makes them tick, what motivates them, because everybody's motivated differently, right? You know, how asking questions, like sometimes we don't even ask. Some coaches just coach, some people just do, right? We're not asking people and saying, hey, how can I coach you better? How can I have motivate you to do what you need to do, right? When I think about teaching, I think about that is I communicate a lot with my students and try to meet people where they're at. I think that's very, very important. And then once you find those things out, I think you need to use those tools to help develop them, make them better. But I also think you have to stretch people because people get comfortable and people had to stretch me. And you have to be able to let them know that when I'm criticizing you because I care for the betterment of you, and it has to be done in a respectful way, because everything can't be just peaches and cream. You have to also be firm and be on it. Some people who would tell you about me, they would be like, Karen just tells it like it is. And I tell people that I tell it like it is, because the truth will set me free and it'll set you free. And I say it like it is because some people don't tell you the truth. And then you fall into the lies and you start living your life based on the lies versus the truth. Yeah.
And I think you hit on a couple points there, and that goes with some of your other work. If you can briefly touch on that, is just, how do you work to make people have confidence, but be comfortable being uncomfortable? Especially when you talk about diversity and inclusion, we haven't touched a lot on that, but the work that you do there, that can give people a ton of confidence, but it can also take a lot of people's confidence away. They can get in a room. You said you had a PWI, predominantly white institution, and when you walk in the room, nobody's jumping up and down. We're going to have diversity and inclusion training today, or I mean, that can, for some people, their confidence can be zapped when they're not comfortable. And so, how do you go about affirming individuals but making sure that they're comfortable being uncomfortable?
So, Pete, this is what I think you and Adam do a great job at, right? And this storytelling. Right? When you can put yourself in someone else's shoes and make them not feel like they're the only one in this room, right, that ever was biased, that ever said something incorrectly, that ever was rude to somebody. When you can tell a story or you can give an example of those things that you've done it, right, people are willing to be open to that. And if you don't shame people, like, we shouldn't be shaming folks because, they're racist. We should be trying to help them understand how racism impacts other people, and it also impacts them, right? So I think it's about making, bringing it down, making it people feel comfortable, but they're going to feel uncomfortable anyway. But when you share your story or you share some experience that you've had and you make it relatable, I think that's really helpful. And sometimes you just have to go in for the jugular and be like, okay, now let's process that out. Let's talk about that. I know that hurts so bad, but let's talk about it, right? Why did it hurt so bad? Why are you feeling guilty? So you have to have the conversation. And I think, fear is real, and fear, you have to help with the fear, because fear brings flight. People want to leave. They're scared. They're like, I'm out.
Well, I like how you said it. It's Dr. Kassebaum. I'm coming for a training. I'm going to tell you the story, but I might come for the jugular. So
I might come for the jugular. Yeah.
So watch out. Well, hey, we have really truly appreciated your time and just the insight and the perspective that you shared. I personally am thankful for your friendship and the connection. I know Adam is appreciative as well. But in closing, you talked about affirming yourself, and we always like to close by making sure that we leave people with something tangible. So can you leave us with your affirmation statement or a quote or just words of wisdom that you live by, but that will affirm others who might be listening to this?
Well, thank you. Well, first of all, I want to thank both of you for having me. This was so fun. So I really appreciate Pete and Adam. You're amazing humans. This is awesome. I'm so glad that you're doing this work. I appreciate it very, very much. It's needed.
Thank you.
And I just really honestly want to say thank you there. My statement would be, I want all individuals to live their authentic life. I want you to be who you are and don't change for others. Be authentic. It is hard to do. You will lose friends. People will treat you different, but at least you know who you are.
Wow.
Yeah, I think that's really great. And I can definitely tell how you do kind of live that and resonate that authentic life. I mean, especially when you're, talking about going for the jugular. I mean, you just don't care. I mean, it's just, you just do it. But, on a serious note, I just want to thank you for your insight and wisdom. I think one of the most profound things that you said that kind of resonated with me was, when you're talking about racism or talking to somebody who might be racist, it's like, I believe that at the base level, everyone has to be able to listen to the other person in a respectful way, right? And I know that I've learned that sometimes the hard way, and sometimes just making assumptions. And I just, I think what you said was very powerful. And you may not even have known or heard yourself say that, but what I hear you saying is like just being able to listen to the other person and meet them where they are, because you have to ask them enough questions.
Yes.
I think I heard somebody say one time, if you haven't found somebody some way to relate to somebody, independent of their race, their socioeconomic background, their gender, then you haven't asked them enough questions.
Yes.
There's a certain, people like to be around people that are like themselves. And if they can feel that you are empathetic, that there's something that's relatable, even if it's you both enjoyed the same movie, right?
Yes.
And I think that goes a long ways to developing a relationship and trust, even if it's just for a period of time. So, Karen, it was just awesome to have you on the show. It's great to see you again. Pete and I just thank you for being, I want to underscore it. Like, you were instrumental in helping us create this show and the naming of it and everything. So thank you for that. And I look forward to meeting you again.
Dr. Kassebaum, if people want to know more about you or Athlete to Athlete or the diversity and inclusion work that you do, can you share with people how to get in touch with you?
Yes, they can reach me at athletetoathlete.us, or they can email me at kkassebaum2@unl.edu.
All right, and we'll have that up and for everybody to see at the end of this. And so again, we thank you very much, and we hope you come back for the next session and engagement of B Squared, Be Exponential.
B Squared.
If you have no confidence in self, you are twice defeated in the race of life. With confidence, you have won even before you have started. Marcus Garvey.